The NBA is constantly growing and evolving, and with that comes change. However, sometimes more drastic measures are advisable or even necessary, like complete bans on certain things. Particularly, this would come down to promoting the safety of the athletes and everyone involved in games, including the fans. Another reason for bans might be simply in the interest of promoting professionalism in all aspects of the league. Welcome to NBA Zone, and in today's video, we'll be looking at 10 moves banned by the NBA. Get ready, because some of them might be beyond anything you'd have imagined. How did these rules come to be? And more importantly, how did the players react? We'll soon find out. Before we get into this crazy awesome video though, make sure you hit that subscribe button right here at NBA Zone and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss a minute of the action on any of our latest videos. Now, let's get started. The Michael Jordan Isolation Rule. Almost as soon as the new rule was announced, it became known as the Michael Jordan Rule, because at the time, he was the master of one-on-one play. But it's worth noting that the NBA didn't actually allow zone defense for a time. Either you had to guard your man or double team him on another. That being said, this ban was all the more understandable. This started in November 1987, and the gist of it is this. Teams are prohibited from putting more than 2 men on the side of the court away from the ball, below the top of the foul circle. A violation will result in the loss of possession. So, for example, if one team's star player, aka MJ, has the ball in the corner, the team is not allowed to have 2 teammates in the other corner, just standing at the three-point line, because then no one would be in the lane to contest after he got past his defender. Although this may not have been in the Chicago Bulls playbook, MJ was so good at planning that it sometimes just seemed to naturally happen. After the evolution of zone defense in the early 2000s, players once again had quite an adjustment to make, jumping into your opponents when shooting. One player that stands out when it comes to this one was Dwayne Wade. He was a master at getting players up in the air with shoot fakes, and once fouls started to be called more often, he could make this move, draw contact, and get to shoot 2 or 3 free throws. It was hard for defenses to avoid falling victim to this move. This was similar to what Reggie Miller used to do by kicking his legs out during three-point attempts, as players would run into him, and he'd also draw a foul, ending up with free throws. Today, this move is banned, and kicking legs or knees out while shooting is usually called as an offensive foul, while jumping into the player guarding you is technically a no call, even though we've seen some very crafty shooters who may occasionally get away with this. And of course, if the defensive player actually does initiate the contact with the shooter, then it's a legitimate shooting foul. The ZAZA Pachulia close-in rule. You may remember that fairly recently, in Game 1 of the 2017 NBA Western Conference Finals, this rule came about. In that game, ZAZA closed in on Kawhi Leonard shooting a three-pointer, getting so close that Kawhi landed on ZAZA's foot, causing Kawhi to re-aggravate a previous ankle injury, which caused him to miss the rest of the playoffs, the Spurs getting swept. Now, this type of move ZAZA made is banned, and players must be given room to land when they shoot. If a player tries to do this move, he'll be charged with a technical foul, or even a flagrant foul. This was a logical ban because, honestly, that move is one of the simplest ways in the game a serious injury could happen. Interestingly, many may not remember that a former Spurs player by the name of Bruce Bowen was actually notorious for sliding under shooters. It's surprising, though, that it took 50+ years of other players closing in on shooters in the same way for this ban to be put in place. Trying to steal of the jump ball. It's actually kind of rare to hear of this move, but that's to be expected considering the fact that it's banned from the league. However, we can trace at least one instance of a player attempting it in recent history. When you're a guy with little to no hops and you have to square up against an athletic 7-foot center on a jump ball, it's safe to say the odds may not be in your favor. This was the case once when Jared Dudley, who was at the time playing for the Phoenix Suns, had to jump against Andrew Bynum of the LA Lakers. Since Jared figured he didn't have a chance of winning the jump ball, instead of jumping, he went for the steal as Bynum was tipping the ball to a teammate. Of course, this is not something a player who's in the jump can legally do, but the refs didn't even make a call as Dudley actually successfully stole the ball and lobbed it to a teammate who got a foul at the rim and got free throws. Of course, the Lakers protested this, which led the refs to hold up and discuss the play. However, to everyone's surprise, they let the play stand. However, according to the NBA rulebook, Section 7, restrictions governing jump balls, E, neither jumper may catch the tossed or tapped ball until it touches one of the 8 non-jumpers, the floor, the basket, or the backboard. Considering that none of those things happened before Dudley touched the ball, it was technically an illegal play, and it's clear that the league has now officially banned that move. The now known penalty for violating this is that the ball will be awarded to the other team. Stepping over the line when free throw shooting. Free throw dunks. This is one move that just about everyone knows is illegal, but how did it get banned? Well, several decades ago, when the great Wilt Chamberlain played. There came a point in his career where he started to alley-oop all of his free throw shots off the backboard and dunk them. And for this reason, it's now a requirement that free throws hit the rim. Otherwise, the ball is considered out of play. On a side note, other moves that were also banned, in part due to the play of Wilt Chamberlain, were what we would now call offensive goaltending and inbounding the ball over the backboard. The greatest move of all time. This is reportedly what NBA commentators said when they witnessed for the first time the move that is now known as the big balls dance. This is not some saucy layup or icy crossover. It's actually a celebration move. In case you're confused, here's an explanation. Failing to ever build a great reputation, despite winning 3 championships, Sam Cassell is a legend that started one of the greatest NBA celebration trends of all time. At first, displaying this move in the early 2000s, it quickly became popular even among the NBA's most popular players, like Kobe Bryant, Goran Dragic, and Andre Iguodala, who all did it at some point in their career. However, this move wasn't officially banned until 2011, and that year, an Atlanta Hawks player named Josh Smith was fined $25,000 for doing the move in a season game. The league classifies the move as an obscene gesture which best not be seen by young fans, so it slowly but surely dwindled out. However, in Game 4 of the 2019 NBA Finals, Klay Thompson returned to the court with a vengeance and did a particular celebration dance after he made a tough contested turnaround jump shot. Towards the end of the second quarter, it was debated whether he was doing the banned move or if it was just being confused with a different one. The hand-checking move. In 1976, this move was introduced. In an effort to give defensive players an edge, the NBA allowed hand-checking, as long as the defensive player didn't impede the offensive player's progress. However, over several decades, this was a controversial move because it brought up questions like, what does impeding a player's progress mean? Some players and teams were much more physical defenders than others, so they would argue that they were just playing physical basketball, while the opposing teams would argue that they were committing fouls on every play. One popular example was the 1980s Detroit Pistons team. Although the hand-checking move took a slow, inevitable decline, as less and less player physicality was allowed as the league evolved. It wasn't until 2004 that the move was banned completely from the NBA. Players were banned from using this move to try and gain the advantage of controlling their opponent. It's said that this was the final rule that turned the NBA into a perimeter-dominated league, and seeing the explosion in the league's popularity, some would say that this ban was actually a good thing. Another thing that resulted from this is shooters having more protection, as the opponent is technically banned from touching the shooter. This in turn means shooters have slightly more space, and that fact means that they have a better opportunity to shoot, which some would also attribute as being a factor in the development of more three-point shooters. The 10-second free throw violation. It's rare to hear of this, especially now. Most shooters today set up relatively quickly. However, there have been some in the past who were notorious for stretching or breaking this rule. For example, Karl Malone became known as the player who took the longest time to set up and shoot a free throw. He even got so bad that the crowds of opposing teams would start chanting a 10-second countdown when he was on the free throw line. One of the most recent players to stretch this was Dwight Howard when he played for the Orlando Magic. Now, if a player is caught trying to do this, they would actually lose the shot altogether. That did happen to Giannis Antetokounmpo back in 2016. However, since then, no players have been caught yet for attempting to do this move again. Punching moves, including the ball. Obviously, when it comes to the NBA, fights or punches are not allowed whatsoever, as it always results in an immediate ejection and fines, with potential suspensions if anything like that were to unfold. However, the no punching rules go further, as players are actually banned from making any move that involves punching the ball. You may have noticed that when players are frustrated, they often slam the ball down or pick it up and smack it with an open hand. These alternative moves are not recommended, but they're not currently banned. If at any point a player does punch the ball with a closed fist, it's automatically a turnover, whether the play was already ruled dead or not. One of the main concerns of the league when putting this ban in place was that punching the basketball is unpredictable and could end up hitting someone, causing injury. With all the rules the NBA has in place to make sure to keep the players, the staff, and the fans safe, it's clear that the league takes unruly behavior very seriously. Also, just like punching the ball, throwing the ball into the crowd is also banned, as some fans are obviously not prepared to be in the game like the players are. There have been many circumstances where players threw the ball into the stands and received a $25,000 fine because of it. Even some well-known players like Kyrie Irving, DeMar DeRozan, Terrence Ross, and Andre Iguodala have been fined for doing this. Flopping moves. This one may seem a little bit minor, but in actuality, it goes a lot deeper than you might expect. Here's an explanation of the NBA's anti-flopping rules. In an effort to curb the unsportsmanlike practice known as flopping, the NBA banned it starting in the 2012-13 season. A flop is an attempt to either fool referees into calling undeserved fouls or fool fans into thinking the referees missed a foul call by exaggerating the effect of contact with an opposing player. The main factor in determining whether a player committed a foul is whether his physical reaction to contact with another player is inconsistent with what would have been expected, given the force or direction of the contact. For example, if a player falls to the floor following minimal contact or lunges in a direction different from the direction of the contact. Interestingly, the determination of whether a player has violated the flopping rule will be made by the league following video review of the play. Game officials will not make determinations about flopping during games. The first time a player is determined to have committed a flop, he'll be warned by the NBA. Therefore, the following automatic penalties will apply. Violation 2 is a $5,000 fine. Then the fine is in a way doubled for a repeated violation, being $10,000, $15,000, and $30,000 consecutively for violations 3, 4, and 5. Then the league goes even further in saying that, for a sixth, or any subsequent violation of the rule, the player will be subject to such discipline as the league determines is reasonable under the circumstances, including an increased fine and/or suspension. So it's safe to say the league has put a hard ban on any flopping moves. And if you choose to do so, you will pay the price. That's it for today's video. Which rule do you think is the wildest? Let us know in the comments below, and let us know what rules you think should be added or changed. Also, if you enjoyed content just like this, then make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to check out our other videos for all things NBA. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.